hard assets, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Bitcoin. I have learned a lot over the past few years about myself, about money, about finance, about business, and I want to talk about it and share it as matter of fact as I can. You might disagree or have another opinion about my experiences and my conclusions, but these are mine. So let's start with my story. I recently came back into Magic the Gathering, and before getting into it, I had, for some reason, watched Rudy videos. I was watching them every so often, so I was familiar with his channel. And, a couple years ago, my friend invited me to a Phyrexia All Will Be One pre-release. It was awesome. I loved Phyrexians and Elishnorn and just her kind of visage, and so I kind of went a little deeper in Magic, and I pulled a Ragavan. And before getting back into Magic the Gathering, I had always been off and on of an online seller for different things on eBay, even some cards. I was selling Pokemon cards maybe 10, 15 years ago on eBay. And, I didn't have as many Magic the Gathering cards. I was more Pokemon but now it's primarily Magic the Gathering. So that was how I got my taste. And having Rudy videos and engaging with his content, I realized that the dude was loaded. And one thing I learned is, if someone has a lot of something and you want to get to that stage, at least consider what they've done to do it. And his perspective had opened up and kind of paved my direction of business. It didn't start like this or immediately jump to his similar angle, which I don't copy the Rudy strategy. I have my own strategy, but it's heavily influenced by Rudy, and I've watched most of his videos by now. Maybe not most of them, but a good chunk of the financial videos that he's had, to try to get his perspective and insight of just the financial world and how he has grown as a person to hoard Magic the Gathering and make tons of money on investments. So when Aftermath came out, I implored my first Rudy buy, which was a master case of Aftermath, just the normal booster boxes, and I was cracking them and opening them and selling for singles. The reason why is because if something has recessed so much and people are panic selling it, the odds are the value hasn't really been truly reflected on the market. It's just pure emotions. The value is almost like, we want to get this product off our hands just in case anything bad is with it. But as you know, Nissa, if you pulled one Nissa out of a box, you paid for the whole booster box itself. And there was all these little hits like Sarkhan and all this stuff. It's getting a little long, and I'll try to speed it up to the main points. I'm not going to edit. That's kind of how I started. I'm going to jump right into really what I want to talk about, which is how Magic the Gathering assets are hard assets. Pokemon is hard assets. Bitcoin is hard assets. Where something like the dollar is not a hard asset. The United States dollar is not very hard at all. It's quite soft, quite flaccid. And other things like the food purchases or different things like shoes, even housing to some degree, are not hard assets. So here's the facts about Magic the Gathering and Pokemon booster boxes and collectible items. Through their life cycle, there is always a point where another box of a given product will never be printed and manufactured again. And if the demand can continue to even a good amount where there's some being drained on the market, or over time that more are being purchased than listed, then the prices should rise. And even if they don't immediately, once the demand if the demand can continue and supply can be drained so low that only a few amount of people can manipulate the price or pretty much pick their price, then you're forced to buy at that price if you want to engage with that item. So the thing about Magic and why I believe it equates so well to Bitcoin is because Magic the Gathering collector boxes, a lot of times they only print so many. Let's say there's 200,000 and they're never going to be printing any more again. Now, Pokemon and normal Magic the Gathering booster boxes may not have such a strict, we're never going to print any more. However, effectively, let's say after 3 or 4 years and they stop printing, however many boxes and items they had printed is the same equation of the 200,000 that I'm saying for collector boxes, which is after that point, that's how many effectively they had ever printed in the world. And you can say the same demand thing because no new boxes are ever going to be generated and enter the world. It's pretty much whatever's out there is out there. And that's the same for Bitcoin. 21 million. And a lot of people, if you know anything about Bitcoin or Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, you'll know that a lot of items actually just get lost or destroyed through transactions or different life events like fires, the Palisades fire. I'm sure some people's Bitcoin wallets or seed phrases or whatever got sucked into that. Or, you know, that one guy who threw away 8,000 Bitcoins and he was spending years and years of his life trying to find those Bitcoins in the trash. Or, for instance, maybe a Pokemon box or a Magic the Gathering box where someone says, hey, I want to open up this product and I just want to open it and see what I get. That's product destruction. And this drains on the supply side. So this is a very underrated element of, hey, this was a person who had the product, had the item, had the asset, maybe enjoyed it, but for whatever reason it was destroyed or lost. You can expect them in the future to perhaps come back to the market. This is not someone who's gone from the supply side. This is merely the supply being burned. And that same person can still be there on the supply side. And with Magic the Gathering collector boxes or Bitcoin or Pokemon, if you've watched the prices rise, you might think, well, where's the value in this item? Why is the price going up? And a certain point is just because it is scarce, just because it is a fixed supply side where no new items are coming in. And if demand can be maintained, people are continuing to want to purchase it if the prices are going up and there's still sales, well, you can expect the price to go even higher because at whatever price that there's sales, if all the quantity runs out and the next sales are only at the next price tier, well, you're going to have to pay that price tier if you want the item. So let's put this in actual numbers, or actual items and numbers. Wilds of Eldraine collector boxes. They started at $200. They fluctuated around there. But people continued to buy and destroy and keep and invest in whatever it was. And so the price slowly drifted higher. And you actually, with Magic the Gathering collector boxes, you have a single supply side drainage as well. People just buying and putting these singles and locking them into their commander decks or their standard decks or whatever it is. Or maybe they get destroyed or lost in the mail. And with this happens, the price of some of these singles can go up a lot. Because if people continue to need or want these singles as they build decks, most of these people aren't immediately going to sell them once their deck is no longer being played. They keep it for a long time. So some of these singles can rise in price and the estimated value of the box can go up, and some sellers can think, that's a good box to open. Let me destroy a box. So there's more reasons than just fun to actually destroy boxes and drain on the supply side and, investing in whatever it is. So as people have bought, you've seen the price of Wilds of Eldraine go up to 200, 300, 400. At that price, people go, whoa, something's going on with Wilds of Eldraine. And then you see some people going in just to invest, just to say, hey, or maybe they're like, I don't want this thing to get out of my reach. Let me open one before the price gets too high. I mean, we're all logical people. We can all think in our own different ways and find reasons to kind of predict the future and front run the market. And so you had this with Wilds of Eldraine, and now you can see that the price has moved from 400 to 500 to 600, 700, 800, 900, where it sits today. At today's price, do you believe that there are still buyers at $900 for Wilds of Eldraine? I sold a box the other day for $900. And I'm expecting in the future that price to still move up from $900 to $1,000 to $1,020 to $2,000. Now, you might be saying, how is it so, how is it so reliable? And it's like, well, why did the person buy the box from me? Are they going to open it? I think they are. It was actually a shop that bought it, and a lot of these shops are selling the collector packs, which those will definitely get opened, if not invested in. And if you can make money, if you can open up a box of Wilds of the Eldraine that you bought for $900 and sell the packs for about $100 each, which I believe they're going for right now, you can profit about $200. And so just opening the box and destroying it helps for the supply, because you can profit off just destroying the box and selling the individual pieces. And that's not to even account for the fact that maybe if you open up the pack, there's ways to get more money. It just flows down. So that's how Magic the Gathering boxes go up, and let's equate it to Bitcoin. You have the price of a Bitcoin. Let's say it was $1,000. A lot of people said, that's so expensive. This coin has gone from $1 to $1,000. It'll never go higher. But you had buyers at $1,000. And when some people see it go to $1,000, they think, oh snap, let me get up. You see the point. And because both Wilds of Eldraine collector boxes and Bitcoin are fixed, you will see the price of all of these items move continuously higher and higher and higher. And that's not to mention the fact that what we're pricing these things in is the United States dollar, which I mentioned is very soft. Now, let's look at the dollar, and let's apply the same logic that I applied to both the Magic the Collector box and Bitcoin. In 19 whatever, back in my day, a burger meal was 5 cents. You could buy so much with $20. You had people saying that, your grandparents said that. And since then and now, that burger, that 5-cent burger has gone to maybe $2, $3, $4, $5. So you have the reverse happening. And if you see the reverse happening, and it's the reverse for the supply. The supply has been growing and growing and growing. And so you have people seeing that and going, it's almost the reverse. They go, oh, look at the dollar go down in value so much. Look at the supply grow so much. I should get rid of the dollar. It's not like Magic or Wilds of Eldraine collector boxes where they're picking it up because they're seeing the price go up. They're seeing the supply go down, and they're seeing that trend continue. It's the reverse. They're seeing the supply of the dollar go up. They're seeing the value of the dollar go down. And so they're saying, let's get out. And you have this flight away. And this is another unreally accepted idea of why a lot of people are comfortable holding on hundreds or millions of dollars of collectible items like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. Alternative currencies like Bitcoin, or any range of things, even stocks. All of these things are finite assets. And with stocks, there's only so many ways you can split up a company. And if there's a stock split, well, your stock that you bought also gets split. So you get more of the same stock. It ends up being the same amount. It's just an easier way to split up that pie. You're still owning the same slice of that company. So there's only so many ways to really split up a company. So many boxes, so many stocks, shares of a stock that you can actually have. So many boxes of Magic. So many Bitcoins. With dollars, it's not like that. There can be an infinite number of dollars, and there has been increasingly more infinite numbers of dollars. And so these are the phenomenon that explain why prices for these things go up. It's not even necessarily that these items have to have value or have to be useful, because you can't really do much with the Magic the Gathering card except for play with it. Look at it, and it has text on it. Might have some fancy foiling or treatment, but we buy them for hundreds of dollars. And if you can understand buying a Magic the Gathering card for hundreds of dollars, how can you not understand buying something like a Bitcoin? I mean, Magic the Gathering, if you tell someone what it is, it's cardboard. Some people would say no, and you might say, no, you don't understand. This is cardboard that, this is rare cardboard. And sure, it is rare cardboard. But ultimately, these are very similar items. These are things that are limited, and when you compare them against the dollar, which is falling in value, they're going to look like they're going up way more than they are. But in reality, part of it is the dollar is getting weaker, and people are looking for items like this to buy. Part of it is there is less supply. And as supply gets drained, or as these things get locked into investors' hands or accounts or closets or whatever it is, or wallets, then there's less and less for the rest of the people out there. And as other people who are just as logical as you and me see that trend, they can say, I see a pattern here. I think I want to go in as well. So that's pretty much the conversation I've really been having in my head, engaging with not only Magic the Gathering, but Bitcoin and all these other assets, Pokemon. And you see with 151, people say there's so many people hoarding 151. And there's a good reason. It's because once Pokemon Center stops printing it, well, people are still buying it and opening it today. So you expect in a couple years that 151 isn't going to be treated like Evolving Skies, where people are continuing to opening it so that they can get the same type of cards and items that they maybe didn't get to pull, or maybe they just want one more copy, or maybe Charizard goes up, etc., etc. So we'll cut off here. Leave a like, leave a comment, let me know, subscribe, all the usual whatever stuff. I really want to just know if there's anyone out there that has similar thoughts. Maybe you never considered it. Maybe you disagree and you say, or you have a question and you say, what about this exception? What about this obvious exception that maybe that it's something that I can't argue with? Maybe it's inherent, like, well, we don't know the future and these assets could go down in value. Sure, they could, COULD, but history has shown they haven't. History has shown they've only gone up and outpaced a lot of these investments that these financial gurus are recommending. And people like me are saying, no, I think I trust my own judgment. And when we're right, we're vindicated and we go into the next play. And if that one's right, which it has been over and over and over again, we get more and more vindicated. And that's where we really get some diamond hands on stuff like Magic the Gathering collector items, Pokemon collector items, and Bitcoin. So, let me know what you think. Please give me your thoughts. And see you guys later. Keep stacking. Peace.